Hello, hello, good people. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Make America Think Again with Shauna Vaughn. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to everyone. Thank you for joining me here. Down below, you can see the correct spelling of my name, my IG information. Please pop onto my IG page if you want just a little pop of news throughout the week. I'm always posting political content all throughout the week. And then you can also find my Cash App there. If you'd like to bless a sister, please bless a sister. It'd be greatly appreciated. Also, like, share, and subscribe the page. Subscribing is free, so please click that subscribe button. All right, so I promised you all a couple of Hollywood stories. So here's the one that I started that I did not finish in a previous video. So I was working on this show. I don't know why I just felt compelled to do that. I got to stop fidgeting with it. But yeah, the curls are curling today. So I was on the show, right? Working on the show. And let's see, I think I worked 5 or 6 days on that show. And when you work on a show, you really get to know people. Like you get to know the longer you work on the show, you get to talk to everybody. Not just, other day players, but everybody, because you're all there for the same goal, same mission, consistently over a certain amount of days. And so I was talking to this guy, right? It was a group of us talking actually. And so and just sharing stories, things that have happened to us in Hollywood. And this guy, young guy, I'd say mid-20s, gorgeous, tall, tall, dark, and handsome, okay? Gorgeous, and actor slash model. And he told us this story of being at this hired to work a party through Disney. Now, he was hired through Disney to work a party at this very famous couple's home, their personal home. And he and other models had to wear, like the guys wore just a little loincloth, and the ladies had a little leather something or suede something covering up their breasts and their area. So think prehistoric times, that's kind of the outfit that he said that they were in. He said they were there to like serve food, walk around, mix and mingle. He said, but it was also understood that some of the people, now these are all adults, these are not no children. He didn't mention any children, no Diddy stuff, no Epstein stuff, all adults. But they were hired under the pretense of just being hostess at a party, serving at a party. They weren't given the full story as to what all was going to be going on at that party. So long story short, he said that walking away from that experience, it was clear that that couple and their guest they were swingers, basically, and they wanted to engage in sexual activities with models who were willing to do that. And he said it was nothing that, actually, he didn't say that directly. He just didn't mention the people being forced against their will. But again, this was prior to all the conversations that were happening now. I think this was actually prior to Me Too as well when I was having this conversation. So yeah, and then he said the husband, here's the reality. The husband he made it clear that he preferred Caucasian males between the 18 to 25 age range. So young Caucasian males. And he said, basically, that's all I'm gonna say about that. So whatever went down at that house, this young man was Black, gorgeous and Black, but he was, and I will say this, this very famous couple is also African American. Okay. So they and their friends like to swing. They had a party. The big problem I have, the number one, let me say the number one problem I have with this is that the models were hired through Disney. How does that happen for a party like this, for a party of swingers? Now, here's the thing though, when you make a lot of money for these networks and production companies and things, do they bend over backwards to keep their high dollar talent happy? Yeah, they do. Um, might they have not been aware of what all was going to happen at this party? Yeah. Might they have been aware, or somebody in that camp, Disney camp, have been aware? Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the number one problem I have with that scenario. Number two problem is these young people were bought into a situation that they didn't, blindsided by this situation. They did not know what they'd be wearing. I don't think they knew that until they went to, yeah, I think they did go in for a casting call, and maybe they had a fitting at that time. Um, so maybe they knew what they were wearing, but they didn't know that this was a swinger try to hook up with young model situation. Um, so yeah, he said he politely left. And no, I didn't participate in none of this. Don't get it twisted. Don't get ready to hear anything like that. But I have seen this couple's compound. It's not a house, it's a compound, and it sits high on a hill. It sits very high on a hill. And I'm not going to say exactly where that hill is because that'll be giving away too much information. But um, I have seen that compound from another house that I was working, that Ray, oh, it was Ray something. Ray was in the title. This other show I was working on. We were at a home, very beautiful home, very nice home. And this couple's home was perched on this mountaintop. And you can't get up there unless you're invited up there. So some people might know who I'm talking about, others might not, but yeah, that was first-hand information that I received from that young man. Now, also, my hair looks wild. That's why I keep fidgeting with it. Sorry. I'm trying to tuck it to where it looks decent. I don't know what's going on. The curls were just curling and now they're falling. Um, so there was another young lady in the conversation with us. I put her around, well, no. She wasn't that young because she had worked at Def Jam, according to her. According to her, I might be saying too much. I might be saying too much. But according to her, I wish I had my teeth. She grew up, or she went to middle school with the wife of the previous story. And she said she only knew this wife to be lesbian. She said back in their city and in middle school, it was clear that the wife in this couple from the model story was lesbian. And the only reason she was around dudes was like dudes were like her friends, or she might have dabbled in some illegal stuff from time to time with these dudes, selling some stuff. But she wasn't dating the dudes. So yeah. So she added that after this model guy told his story, she added that information. And then she went on to say she left after she graduated from high school, she left and moved to New York and she got a job with Def Jam. And she said she worked the desk outside of Diddy's office years ago when he was at Def Jam. And all the things that came out in his trial, she had confirmed years. She said years before the trial. That's why some of this information was not new to me, but she mainly talked about the men that Diddy had coming in and out of the office and the expectation of the men, male rappers specifically, um, the expectation that Diddy had of them in order to make it in the industry. And she said, yeah, there were several closed door meetings where we knew, you know, don't go in, don't go in. So yeah, those are a couple of stories. I'm gonna tell you one more real quick. So when I first moved here, I didn't have an agent when I first moved here. I had an agent, in Houston, and she didn't want to work like that. Although she sent me out here for auditions before, so it was weird. But she didn't want to work like that, or she didn't have, I don't know what the problem is. So, anyways, I got a new agent, but at the time I didn't have one. I just moved out here. So there are several sites that you can go to where you can actually try to book an audition yourself, right? So that's what I was doing. And I got a notification that I was invited to an audition. I got the sides for the audition. I was reading the sides, learned the sides, had run through everything, how I wanted to do it, all that kind of stuff, right? So the audition came up like later in that week, and got the address for where to go. And because I didn't know LA well at that time, I just saw hills and mountains. And you know how you always hear, and this is a lesson for a lot of you who haven't been here. There are hills and mountains everywhere. Everywhere. When you hear San Fernando Valley, when you hear anything that has valley behind it, understand there are mountains all around it. So the Hollywood Hills are not the only hills, okay? But I just moved here, didn't really know my way around, all that kind of stuff, still just following navigation wherever I need to go until I learned, all the main streets that get you all the way through Hollywood and LA and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, I get called for this audition, go to the audition, and I'm thinking I'm going to the Hollywood Hills. But y'all, it was not the Hollywood Hills. It was in some hills, but it was not the Hollywood Hills. And when I pulled up to this house, it was a decent sized house, but you know how that you got that neighbor you're in a nice neighborhood, right? And every house is nice, but you can always tell that neighbor when it's some fucked up shit going on in the house because the yard is fucked up, or the awnings are falling off, or the gutters haven't been cleaned, or one's hanging off, or the paint's chipping off. It just, you can tell there's some fucked up shit going on in that house because they don't take care of the house, right? Toys and little tricycles and stuff you left in the yard, like, they don't attend to the flower bed, and you can always tell. So I pull up, it's in a cul-de-sac. There were little parking things. So I was like, okay, maybe this is a professional situation. Now, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that you need to know. In Houston, back in the day, you could have an audition anywhere because people didn't have studios and studio offices, and it's not like how LA is set up, right? So again, I'm freshly new to LA. It was not uh, odd to be going to someone's home or a house that a business could have very well been run out of, because you see a lot of that in Houston. Law firms will be in a house, they bought the whole property and they have the law firm, etc. So I didn't think that that was odd that it was at a house because of just the environment I was coming from and not really knowing how LA works. When you on a true audition in LA, you ain't going to nobody's house. You're not going to no house. You're not going to a hotel. You're not doing none of that bullshit. Okay. There's plenty of spaces, and has been plenty of spaces for hundreds of years for people to hold auditions. So back to my story. So I get out, I'm reluctant, but I go up to the house, follow the little arrows. Like I said, it's still a nice house in a nice area. Definitely not Hollywood Hills, because I have driven so fucking far. I'm like, where the hell am I? But I go up. There's a table out. There's usually a table out for you to sign in, your time, so they know, the PAs know when to to call you in, or casting assistants to call you in, etc. So there was a sign-in sheet. There was a dude sitting there, and there were sides, right? I already knew my sides. I already knew my lines. I was ready. I was prepared. And then the guy says, "Oh, what are you reading for?" Well, oh, they changed your side. So here's a copy, and we'll give you like 10 minutes with it. I hate that shit. I hate cold reading. I hate it. That's number one. Number two, I was like, okay, I've driven all this way. I'm already out here. Let's see if we can pull this off. So as I'm walking, he's like, oh, so there's a space, there's an area for um, all the people coming to audition for you to sit, just go around this walkway. So this walkway takes you around a pool. There's a pool. There's these two young girls sitting on the side of the pool with their feet in the pool. They have clothes on, not swimsuits. And then I get around to this area where there's chairs, clearly set up for people to sit and relax. And then there's only one other person in this area. And this woman had she had bleach blonde hair. Her lips were out to here. She had on the lucite, the clear shoes, before the clear shoes were like a fad for everybody, a fashion thing for everybody a couple of years ago. No, this was when just strippers were wearing the shoes. And nothing, I'm not saying nothing bad about strippers. I'm not saying anything bad about sex workers. I'm not saying that. Not doing that. I'm just saying clearly I could identify that she was not there to read for the same role as me. I was reading for a detective role. I don't know what she was reading for. I didn't at that time. I just noticed that there was a bleach blonde hair. It was big, and lips were out to here. And a lot like the MAGA face, a lot like the MAGA makeover right now that all the Mar-a-Lago ladies are getting, a lot like that. And then she had on the like a good, I want to say 6-inch lucite heel, and she had on a dress. Okay, so then I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm a little confused. This is not typically how this goes, but okay. Focus. So I sit down, I start reading the sides. Y'all probably have already guessed it. I'm reading the sides, and I'm not even gonna repeat, they wanted me to say some nasty ass shit, y'all. And I was like, oh, I stood up and said, oh, hell no. Oh, uh-uh. And then so that got the attention of the little girls over at the pool, young ladies at the pool. And this one over here with the lips, she's like just looking at me like, you know, it was porn. It was porn. And there's no way of knowing this because it was put on the normal site with all the other acting jobs, which really pissed me off. So I couldn't wait to get home to file a complaint. But as I'm there, I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not saying this shit. What is this? This is not what I signed up for. So I'm pissed off. I'm yelling at her. She don't have nothing to do with it. She's here to audition for a role that clearly she was aware of. I was not. And then these two little girls over here, they hear me and they're like, and look, I keep saying little girls, but they're young ladies. And then so they said, well, what did they have you read? What are you reading for? I said, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I submitted my name for. And the girl said, the same thing happened to us. They switched our script too, but we didn't know what to do. So they told us, well, we're gonna have a party later. So y'all just stick around and we're gonna send somebody for some beers and stuff. I was like, what? What? Where y'all from? Where y'all from? And so one, I can't remember one. I'm gonna say Idaho, Nebraska. I'm gonna say somewhere in the Midwest. That's all I knew. They said, I said, listen, babies, this is not how the audition is supposed to go. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. I'm leaving. So if you want to leave with me, come on, let's go. Get your things. And the little girls got up, got their things, followed behind me like some little ducklings. And I went back to the table and I slammed that shit down. And I said, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I submitted for. This was not what is online. And guy was like, I'm just the PA. I'm just the PA. I didn't change. I didn't do. You knew what this was. You knew what it was too. So long story short, that's how I ended up at an audition for Corn. Let me say that so I don't get taken off of YouTube. For Corn, and how I rescued two little newbies to the industry. And who knows what would have happened to them if I wouldn't have pitched a fit and told them, gather up your little things and save the little ducklings, because they were just fresh off the boat from the Midwest and thought that this is how things were supposed to go. Hollywood, Hollywood, y'all. Hollywood.